The Battle of Guilford Courthouse, when winning feels a lot like losing. This was a comedic chaos of victory, because picture this, it's March 15, 1781, in a small clearing near Guilford Courthouse, North Carolina. The British Army is technically winning a major battle, but the win feels like ordering a large pizza and getting charged for extra toppings you didn't ask for. General Cornwallis, the redcoat in charge, stands victorious over a battered American army, but at the cost of nearly a quarter of his own troops. Spoiler alert, this victory doesn't end well for the British Empire. Oh, and the Americans? They fought like they were auditioning for an action movie with a script full of plot twists. The year 1781 wasn't shaping up to be Cornwallis's year, fresh off a string of skirmishes in the southern theater of the Revolutionary War. Cornwallis was convinced he could crush the pesky rebels led by General Nathanael Greene. Greene was no ordinary general. He was the guy who figured, if I can't beat them head on, I'll just tire them out by running around the Carolinas like it's an extreme marathon. Greene's strategy? Tactical retreat after tactical retreat. His army was smaller, poorly equipped, and looked like it had been styled by the bargain bin at a colonial thrift store. But Greene was smart. He pulled Cornwallis into a game of cat and mouse, luring him deeper into unfamiliar territory. By the time the Brits reached Guilford Courthouse, they were like that friend who insists on hiking all day but forgot to pack snacks. The players. Who's who in this battlefield sitcom? General Nathanael Greene, the rebel leader with a flair for strategy and just enough crazy to set the perfect trap. Think of him as the guy who brings a slingshot to a cannon fight but still makes it work. General Lord Charles Cornwallis, the British commander whose idea of a good time is chasing rebels across the South. His hubris rivals a TikTok influencer, thinking they've gone viral after one post. The British troops, battle-hardened but hangry. These guys were tired, underfed, and starting to question why they didn't pick a cushier military gig. The American militia and Continental Army, equal parts scrappy underdogs and wildcards. Imagine assembling an army from Craigslist listings. Lots of heart, but wildly unpredictable. Greene set up his forces on 3 lines, a strategy that looked more like a video game defense level than traditional warfare. The first line? Militia who had a tendency to fire a shot and peace out faster than a bad first date. The second line? Regular troops ready to slug it out for a bit longer. And the third? Greene's best fighters standing strong like they were waiting for the final boss battle. Cornwallis, ever the overconfident general, looked at this setup and thought, easy win. He charged in, thinking his veteran soldiers could bulldoze through these layers like a stack of pancakes. But Greene had other plans. The battle, chaos, carnage, and Cornwallis' oh no moment. The British charged at the first line of militia, who true to form fired their muskets and immediately turned tail. Cornwallis probably laughed thinking, that's it? But then the British hit the second line. Suddenly things got spicy. American sharpshooters began picking off officers like they were the last chips in a party bowl. By the time Cornwallis's troops reached the third line, the British army was exhausted, bleeding and questioning their life choices. Greene's Continental Army fought ferociously, taking advantage of every bit of cover and terrain. At one point, Cornwallis, realizing his troops were about to get overwhelmed, did something so wild it deserves its own Netflix special. He ordered his cannons to fire into his own lines to break up the American counterattack. Yeah, he literally said, if I can't have my troops, nobody can. The aftermath, a Pyrrhic victory for the Brits. When the smoke cleared, Cornwallis held the field, but it was a hollow win. He had lost over 500 men, about 25% of his force. The Americans, meanwhile, had fewer casualties and walked away feeling like they just pulled off a heist. Cornwallis later admitted another such victory would ruin us. Translation, I won, but at what cost? Greene, ever the optimist, declared the battle a strategic success. Sure, he didn't technically win, but Cornwallis's battered army was now limping its way toward Virginia, where things would only get worse for the British. The Battle of Guilford Courthouse was a turning point in the Southern campaign. It drained the British of resources and morale, setting the stage for Cornwallis' eventual surrender at Yorktown later that year. Greene's strategy of attrition proved that sometimes you don't need to win the battle to win the war. You just need to make the other guy regret showing up. The humor and irony. What makes this story hilarious? Let's break down the funny bits. Cornwallis firing on his own men. That's the historical equivalent of rage quitting a video game and taking everyone else down with you. 2. The American militia's shoot and scoot tactic. These guys showed up for 5 minutes, caused chaos, and left. True MVPs of efficiency. Greene's ability to claim a loss as a win. The man was like, yeah, they technically won, but did you see how tired they looked? That's a moral victory right there. The Battle of Guilford Courthouse is a perfect example of how war isn't just about brute strength. It's about strategy, resilience, and occasionally confusing your enemy so much they start doubting themselves. Greene may not have won the day, but he won the long game. As for Cornwallis, let's just say this victory had him questioning all his life choices and marked the beginning of the end for British hopes in the Revolutionary War. So the next time someone says winning isn't everything, remember Cornwallis at Guilford Courthouse. Sometimes winning feels an awful lot like losing.